"Your card is declined, loser," the cashier barked, and the sound landed like a blow. The aisle froze. Milk trembled in plastic hands. The old man held the black card over the reader, as if holding a tiny, impossible truth. His other hand gripped a carton of milk so hard the corners bent. His thumb brushed the cracked blue enamel on his late wife's watch, the last thing he had from a life that used to mean something. The cashier laughed, a clean, sharp noise that gathered people. A woman near the freezer opened her phone camera. The manager, leaning on the register with the practiced patience of someone used to showing the world a neutral face, said, "Sir, the card's declined. You need another form." He said it like a procedure, until the old man didn't move the way procedures expect. "Maybe you want to check under the coat for spare change, Grandpa," the cashier said, playful cruelty finding oxygen. Laughter rippled. The old man didn't flinch. He only looked down at the black card, the matte surface, the faint embossed crest, and then at his watch. The camera phones tilted closer. The crowd smelled of impatience and something meaner, appetite. He unfolded a photograph from his coat and slid it across the counter. Himself decades earlier, stiff-jawed in a suit, hand in hand with a woman whose smile made his current face ache. "So what, vintage?" the cashier scoffed. The sarcasm was a blade. "Please," the old man said, voice thin but steady. "Just call the number." "Call who?" the manager asked. A kid in line laughed. Somebody recorded. The old man tapped his thumb against the watch until the blue chip gleamed like a signal. No shame, no theatrics, only a tired dignity that made the laughter feel wrong in a place meant for buying milk and lasagna. The point-of-sale screen flared. Flagged for review. The sarcasm died into awkwardness. The cashier's face flickered. He had wanted content, not a puzzle. "It's not that I don't have money," the old man said quietly. "It's not what you think." Phones lowered a fraction. Curiosity nudged closer than cruelty. "My granddaughter, Lena, her tuition is due next week." The name humanized him instantly. People remembered their own kids, their own bills. "Then use another card," the cashier said, but the words slid off the old man's calm. "No other card. This one covers it. It always has." He glanced again at the photograph, then at his watch. "Please, call the number on the back." The manager tried a fraud line and read back an automated response. "System flagged. Cardholder verification failed." The old man's jaw set. He reached into his coat and laid a small brass key beside the card. Dull, warm, its loop threadbare from years of being held. Someone muttered that it looked like a key to a desk. Someone else whispered it looked like a charm. A woman stepped out of line. "Sir," she said softly, "are you okay?" The old man blinked, seeming very small for a moment. "My wife," he said, and the shop hung on the word. "She used to tell me not to be ashamed of money. That money is a way to keep people safe. I had to be careful with it after she died." "What's the number?" the manager asked, reaching for his phone. "Don't call fraud," the old man said. "Call my number. If you call fraud, they'll lock it permanent, and Lena needs to pay tomorrow." His voice broke on the last word, and the humiliation in the room pivoted into something smaller and more human. Then, outside, a low, deliberate hum. Not traffic. The old man watched the manager's face instead of turning around. When the doors slid open, a stretch limousine eased into view, then another, the unhurried arrival of people who never had to rush. "Tell them to hold everything," the old man said, and the manager's hand froze on the phone. What happened next would change the meaning of the word humiliation for everyone in that aisle. The limousines eased into the lot like a shadow taking a seat. A man in a tailored coat stepped out, unhurried, his shoes making no sound. "Mr. Ellison?" he asked, polite and precise. The old man nodded once. "My name is Carter Hale," the man said, offering a thin embossed card. "I work with families who prefer discretion. I believe you attempted a payment on one of our accounts." "It isn't about money," Mr. Ellison said. "It's about my granddaughter. Lena needs tuition." Carter's eyes flicked to the cracked watch. Recognition, not pity. "We can help," he said, as if the offer were an afterthought, because to men like him, solutions arrived as expected tools. A provisional payment while we investigate the flag. "Why would you help me?" Mr. Ellison asked. "Because our members expect us to handle things delicately." The word made the old man's mouth twitch, a mirror that made him feel older than he wanted. The cashier, bravado curdling into envy, sneered. "So you just pull up in limos and fix things for the rich?" Carter didn't look angry. He looked bored. "We step in when the spectacle would do more harm than good, especially for the family's sake." A young woman in line pressed forward, eyes wet. "Please, this isn't a show, it's a person." Carter produced a small envelope and slid it across the counter with mechanical grace. Mr. Ellison stared at it like it might bite. He thought of Lena's stubborn laugh, of sleepless nights counting coins to keep her safe. Then the same young woman whispered, "Don't take it. Let him stand up." Stand up to what? To humiliation, or to charity with a hidden price? "Before I accept," Mr. Ellison said, voice steady as riverstone, "answer me one thing. If I refuse, and take my fight elsewhere, will you stand with me?" Carter studied him, the knuckles, the brass key, the watch. He could close the chapter with a check and move on, or join a man who'd been made small in public and risk something messier. "We can make an incident go away," he said finally. "We can also make sure the people responsible answer for it. But the second one requires you to let us in." The old man pressed his thumb to the chipped enamel, felt his wife's memory in it, and said, "I will not be bought. Not like that." Carter didn't look surprised. "Then we'll do it your way, quietly." "For Lena." "For Lena," Mr. Ellison repeated. He slid the brass key back into his pocket, a small private act that would become a promise. Outside, the limousine doors clicked shut. Inside, the register restarted, commerce trying to act normal after a storm. What he did next would force more than a repayment. It would force truth. The young woman introduced herself as Maya, an EMT who'd seen humiliation do more damage than broken bones. "I couldn't take a handout," Mr. Ellison told her. "Money without dignity isn't much of a gift." "Sometimes, dignity's the currency people forget," she said. The manager returned, phone in hand. "Corporate wants the transaction logs. They said we shouldn't accept outside payments without documentation." "Tell them to hold off until we have an auditor," Mr. Ellison said. "Not until someone neutral looks at it." That was how the plan began. Small, stubborn, domestic. Maya knew a reporter she trusted. There was a legal aid clinic, an IT volunteer. Donations trickled in through the live stream, all marked "For Lena." Mr. Ellison refused most of them, but kept one small envelope from a teenage boy who'd seen the clip at school. It smelled of neighbors, not of polished hands. He met the reporter, June, in a coffee shop. "If you want people on your side, let them see what you refuse to be," she said. "We frame this around dignity, not drama." He agreed, and gave her everything: timestamps, photos of the key and the watch, the flagged screen. But pressure found its cracks. Trolls dug up a rumor that Mr. Ellison had once been let go from a payroll job under suspicious circumstances. It seeded doubt in people who preferred a simple story. A neighbor showed up with a casserole anyway. "Lena's my neighbor. Tell her not to worry." A small lifeline among the noise. Then came the call that changed the tempo, an automated message from the college. A hold would be placed on Lena's account if no alternative payment was recorded within 48 hours. He lay awake that night, the watch ticking louder than usual. He would not take the quick route. He would not be bought. Instead, he called a community center and asked about a fundraiser. The turnout surprised him. Neighbors brought baked goods. A pastor donated the hall. A teacher started a petition. The highlight wasn't the money. It was Lena, hands trembling at the podium, speaking about nursing school and the grandfather who'd taught her how to keep promises. When she mentioned the watch and the key, the room went silent with respect. A woman stepped forward afterward with an envelope from her daughter's scholarship fund. "We want to help you keep Lena's place." The sound in the room wasn't the grocery store's cruel laughter. It was something like repair. That night, as he watched Lena cough into a tissue over video call, an email arrived. Incident report, reopened. The vendor wanted to rerun their remediation script on the terminals, a formal request that could quietly erase everything that had been logged. Lena's tuition hung by a thread again, this time by a system that could swallow its own evidence. The next morning, Mr. Ellison walked back into the store with the tuition invoice folded in his coat. He set it beside the watch and the key. "Let's do this right," he said. "You're not going to let them run the script?" the manager asked. "Not until a neutral party looks at it," Mr. Ellison said. "I don't want anyone erasing what happened." June arrived with a laptop. "We need time-stamped proof before they sweep the logs." Maya rounded up a volunteer, Nate, from the community center, who mirrored the terminal's data onto a drive. Checksums, hashes, a clean chain of custody. It wasn't a legal army, it was neighbors, and sometimes that outmatches procedure. Then came the threat that mattered, a text from corporate. Comply immediately, or terminal services would be suspended. No cards, no sales, for a store that was also people's paychecks. Mr. Ellison had asked them to hold. Now his choice risked more than his own dignity. He looked at the watch, at the key, at Lena's face in his mind. "Take the hit on the register," he told the manager. "We'll raise cash. We won't hand over the logs without oversight." The neighborhood rallied, cash only for the day, vouchers, a bake sale. What had started as a viral clip had become something people felt responsible for. The vendor tried one more quiet move, a message warning against unfounded public characterizations. June saw through it instantly. "They're trying to muzzle us with process." "Then we publish the hashes," Maya said, "not the content, just proof." Mr. Ellison hesitated, the old instinct to protect Lena from the glare pulling at him. But the kindness that had gathered around them now felt like a duty. "Do it," he said. That night, walking Lena's street alone, his phone buzzed. Carter. "The vendor's lawyers want to negotiate containment," Carter said. "A settlement, a non-disclosure, the cleanest way. And if I refuse? Expect pressure. They'll leak rumors. They'll make life difficult for Lena." "I won't sign away her name," Mr. Ellison said. "Then be careful," Carter told him. "They can be ruthless when cornered." He stood under the streetlight a long time after that, the brass key warm against his palm. Tomorrow would bring lawyers. Tonight, for the first time since the cashier's jeer, he slept without the taste of shame in his mouth. They came with lawyers first, then PR, offers of a quiet settlement, a non-disclosure, a technical inconvenience instead of an admission. Mr. Ellison thought of the casserole lady, of Maya, of Nate's dusty drive, of June's careful reporting. "We won't take a hush-money settlement," he said. The lawyers pivoted to pressure. Threats, implications, the suggestion that a lingering fight would hurt the store, and the manager, and even the cashier. "That's not the point," Mr. Ellison said. "It's never been about money. It's about not letting humiliation be the way people get what they want." Carter, watching, made his calculation. "If you go public," he said quietly, "they'll spin, they'll dig for dirt. If you win, it's public and complete. If you lose," he didn't finish. June's piece was ready. Hashes published, auditor confirmations, a forensic trail that a non-profit watchdog had already verified. On the morning Mr. Ellison chose, the neighborhood hall was packed. Lena's friends, her professors, Maya, Nate, June. Carter sat in the back like a man at a funeral for something he hoped would survive. Mr. Ellison told the story plainly. The taunt, the phones, the vendor's attempt to make a technical fix into a private, silent transaction. He didn't shout. He didn't ask for pity. He asked for fairness, and for an end to shame used as leverage against people who couldn't fight back. When he finished, the hall held its silence like a promise. June read the forensic findings aloud. The story spread, not as scandal, but as something people felt responsible for. Regulators opened inquiries. A news station picked it up. The vendor could no longer bury it. They could only answer for it. Facing public scrutiny, their lawyers recommended settlement, not secrecy. Carter brought the offer: restored accounts, funded tuition, a public pledge to change their protocols. "It won't be dramatic justice," he said, "but it will protect everyone." "I want them to say what they did," Mr. Ellison told him. "I want Lena's name cleared, not hidden. No NDAs that silence victims. Fix your processes. Commit to independent audits. Then we accept." Carter nodded. Not the theatrical victory of a courtroom, but a contract that forced transparency instead of secrecy. The vendor's public apology named its failure and promised change. Lena's tuition was paid, quietly, with a statement attached admitting fault. Months later, audits revealed a culture of complacency inside the company: rushed patches, corners cut, speed prioritized over people. Executives were replaced, policies were rewritten. The vendor's CEO wrote Mr. Ellison a letter, inviting him onto a community advisory board. He accepted, not to be honored, but to make sure the fixes were real. Lena finished her semester and started a nursing placement, sending photos of herself in scrubs that made her grandfather's chest swell. The cashier never quite got his swagger back. Some days he even offered something like an apology. On a late autumn afternoon, Mr. Ellison sat at his kitchen table and wound the watch. He ran a finger over the brass key beside it, a map of everything that had been chosen. He called Lena. They talked about ordinary things: shifts, a recipe for stew, a fundraiser that weekend. Ordinary and fierce. It felt like life. "Grandpa," she said at the end of the call, softly, "you kept your promise." Mr. Ellison smiled. The watch ticked. Outside, a child laughed on the stoop. Not cruelty this time, just simple, bright life. He placed the key beside the watch and let himself believe one thing: that dignity, once defended in small ways, becomes contagious. The cashier's laugh had been sharp and public. The restitution was quieter and honest. Justice, in the end, wasn't a spectacle. It was small, human, and enough.